This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half. Well, hello, this is Deborah Johnson with our Women at Halftime podcast, and I'm so excited to have Greg with me today on a great subject of how the spirit of competition can help us regroup, reinvent, and restart. And we have some great material for you today. I want to make sure that you click in on the link in the show notes. We do have, at the time this airs, available a free webinar, How to Develop a Side Business That Will Last Through Any Economy. It is so very relevant right now. And many people are having to reinvent their lives, reinvent their businesses. And this is a great one to really sit in on, and it's absolutely free. So make sure you take advantage of that. So let's get right to this subject. Thanks for being here today, Greg.
Well, thanks. Looking forward to talking to everybody.
Yes, and both of us come from a competitive background, and I thought that would be a wonderful subject to cover today, and how this spirit of competition, the good spirit of competition, can help us regroup, reinvent, and restart. And I know you have, as a former professional athlete, I still think of you as a professional athlete, but yeah, isn't that nice? And a professional musician on my end, and all of the competition that I've gone through, really through the years. There's a lot of great principles here in covering this. And first of all, I'm going to define what competition is as far as like the dictionary. It's a rivalry with two or more parties, and it's a process of finding out the best in an area. So, but I always question, does it really mean the best? So, with competition. So what does competition mean to you, Greg? Let's have you.
Well, in a business sense, in order to make a living, you don't have to be the best. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to carve out a niche, and you need to be worth your value to enough people mm-hmm. to make a living. So, you know, we've all got probably our own ideas or opinions of like what's the best grocery store, mm-hmm. and maybe if Consumer Reports did a study, they could come up with the best grocery store. Mm-hmm. But it actually doesn't matter to the various chains. Mm-hmm. They just care about, are they bringing in enough customers who, you know, for whatever reason, shop at their stores and they can make a little bit of money each month. And so in terms of competition in the business world, what you're trying to do is carve out a living.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's, and figuring out the way to be able to do that. A lot of people are trying to figure that out right now.
Yeah, and I doubt most people start out opening their business trying to figure out how to be mediocre.
Right.
So trying to figure out how to be the best is obviously the ideal, but you don't need to wait until you are the best in order to get started.
Definitely. And we see a lot of advertisements out there, the absolute very best or the best of, that right. sort of thing. So, it
always reminds me of that scene in the movie Elf.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's cruising the streets of New York City, and he's never been in a big city before, and he runs across a coffee shop who advertises the world's best coffee. So he runs in and he congratulates the manager on having the world's best coffee. And
yeah, that's a great scene. Yeah,
and we're all used to overhyped marketing.
Yes, we are definitely used to the overhyped marketing. I think we see it everywhere. So, and we want to use it sometimes too. I love to use.
If you happen to be the best, go ahead and use it. But your competition is exaggerating.
Right. Well, I'm going to ask a couple questions here so we can dive in a little bit. But what is entailed in competing at any level? So talking about that competition. So, I know it's a little bit different, but not entirely different in sports and in music. And you have asked me before, have I had to compete against, someone specifically, and especially a piece classically. I used to compete a lot classically. And I said, well, it was a little bit different. People were playing different pieces. They were not playing the same concerto that I was playing, or the same Chopin, like Nocturne or Mazurka, whatever, what I was doing. So it was different, or a Bach Prelude and Fugue. They were doing something different. Now, I've won competitions, but it's hard. It was hard for me to just compare with a piece to piece, like, okay, how am I doing up against them? So I just knew I had to perform myself with confidence and really do my very best in that. So,
well, and comparing that to a business, though, you can't control all of the other performers. Mm-hmm. You can control your own performance, though.
Right.
And so from your standpoint, having experienced competition, you were about, what would most judges deem as excellent? Mm-hmm. And you strove to personify that through your skills, mm-hmm. talents, experience, and in some ways, that's what businesses do.
Right.
You can't be the next business down the street, even
right.
though they're your competition.
Right.
But you can be the best that you can be, and try to evaluate what the judges, which is in this case your marketplace, mm-hmm. try to evaluate what that marketplace is wanting and what will it deem as worth spending money on.
Right, right.
And so your experience in competition, fits perfectly.
Right. So now I want to ask you, turn this around in baseball, because you were a pitcher and you were at a very high level, and every game was a competition for you. But it was a little bit different because you're competing against like a hitter. You're not
right.
just a...
So in my case, each at bat was a competition unto its own. Mm-hmm. And there was, some in-game situations, you had to decide, is there nobody on? Is there a runner on second? How many outs are there? Some of those contextual things are mm-hmm. probably a little bit like, where we are in our economy now.
Right.
But in terms of evaluating the competition, when a hitter walks up to the plate, you have to decide what part of the strike zone are you going to pitch to? And, a pitcher has control over high, low, inside and out, and what speed the pitch comes to. Mm-hmm. So you have three things to attack somebody. And then there's a fourth that you can do, and that's change your arm angle so that the plane changes. Mm. And each hitter typically there's four basic areas of the strike zone: low and away, high and away, high and in, and low and in. Mm-hmm. And each hitter can generally hit one of those quadrants better than the other. Mm-hmm. And then probably there's a next one that they hit really well, and then there's one quadrant that they can't touch. Mm. And then depending on their hand quickness, it depends on if they've got really fast hands, they don't have to wait as long. But if their hands aren't very, quick, they've got to start their swing a lot earlier, which makes them susceptible to changes of speed. Mm. So you evaluate all of that. And then the next thing you do is okay, what pitches and areas am I pitching well to today? Mm. So you have to first assess the competition. Mm-hmm. Then you got to reevaluate your strengths and your skills in this moment, and then develop some sort of strategy mm-hmm. and to compete.
Yeah.
And this strategy, in baseball doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be perfect in business. But the strategy matches your strengths versus your competition's weaknesses. Mm. And after you do that, you eventually got to pull the trigger and make the pitch. And one of the things that you and I watch people do all the time is they keep evaluating, and they never get around to jumping in. You eventually need to engage and compete and see if it works.
Right.
I throw a pitch blown away, and the guy whacks at the left center, and I say to myself, well, next time I got to try something else.
Do something different.
Once you begin to implement your strategy, life is about completely reevaluating or constantly reevaluating the effectiveness of your strategy.
Right.
And one can hope that the strategy is right the first time, but our experience, both yours and mine, in our own businesses, has been that some of the strategy was working, and others needed to be redefined as we went. And part of that is because the strategy wasn't quite right. Part of that is your competition's doing the same thing too.
Yeah.
And so the marketplace is always changing. So whatever strategy you come up with today, 6 months from now, you're going to need to tweak it because the world is a dynamic place.
Right. What great points, because I think you said a couple things of that's really been true of my field too, where people just keep evaluating. It's endless, but they never get off the dime. They never actually take the risk, and also really keeping on mission where you have evaluated and studying the other competition or the market. I've been doing that in my new courses coming up and evaluating the market and what the needs are. I'm changing one of my courses kind of around a little bit, and I bumped one up just because of the needs of the market right now. And I felt like there were so many emotional needs with people being sequestered and lonely and needing something in their life, and music can fill that. I can do that so very well. And it's something I've wanted to start up for a while, and I had to work very, very hard to get this launched and to be able to get it ready. But it shows me that there are areas here in the market if we study them. And if I kept listening to just all of the other voices and not just mine, I could get totally distracted because everyone's going to tell me how to do it or what to do.
Right.
But you have to know, like when you are facing that batter. And it's so funny because I'm thinking as you're talking, I knew so little about baseball when we got married. I have learned so much. But I had no idea of the strategy involved. There's so much strategy involved. I think it came from after I read that book on it, the catcher book. I read a baseball book. But it really shed that light on we really need to study and strategize and have some sort of plan. But first of all, we want to know what our mission is. You're after to get that guy out at the base. I'm after to make a course that will be very, very impactful in the future. So, anyway, I think going through that with our competition and realizing the world moves fast, very fast. So, we have, especially as entrepreneurs, we're used to, kind of pulling up our bootstraps and let's just do it, get a little scrappy and figure this thing out. Right. Spend time. How much time did I spend even yesterday on tech? Little things. And I teach people how to use tech, and I'm pretty good at tech. And I was going through my own little tech hole. So I thought it was interesting when we're talking about competition. The first recorded Olympic Games were held at Olympia in the Greek city state of Elis in 776 BC. That's before Christ, 776. Did I get the numbers right?
Right.
But it was generally accepted that they were at least 500 years old at that time. So they've been going for some sort of competition that way athletically. And then the first modern Olympics, as we know it, was in Athens in 1896. So, but competition, that's, what has happened with the sequestration. I've watched. We have 3 sons, so we're there. You guys are all talking about it. You are talking about it. All the sports and this is a big part of watching the game, of being a part of those games. And the same thing applies to business. People are out of their game. They're out of their businesses right now. So, but let's talk about pushing ourselves to the next level and how that occurs, how that's occurred for you as an athlete when we're talking about competing. I think that's interesting because I know how I have ended up pushing myself. So you talk about that for a moment.
Well, I think in athletics, when you talk about pushing yourself to the next level, it begins with an accurate assessment that you either need to quit or improve, because what you did last game isn't going to carry you much further. So, you like a year ago started getting into how to reinvent yourself.
Right.
You're way ahead of the curve. And then this coronavirus thing happens, and suddenly dozens of entrepreneurs are trying to teach how to reinvent themselves. And, you've got an advantage in that you actually have reinvented yourself.
Multiple times.
You've been teaching this, for almost a couple of years now. But you got competition, and you suddenly have to ask yourself the question: is what I'm doing good enough? Once that question comes out, then you have to go, okay, where's the competition taking this? At what level do I need to go? And maybe in your case, you need to come up with new courses. Maybe you may make sure your membership sites are seamless because you see weaknesses in other membership sites. Maybe you need to become more strategic in marketing because the competition is shotgunish. But you evaluate yourself and you say, okay, I need to, in athletics, I need to train more specifically and with more concentration. And then when I get in a game, I've got to take my concentration level up even more. Competition is just about focus. And in competition, if you focus enough in practice, then you can relax and just rely on your training in a game.
Right.
But if you're lazy in practice, then you have to suddenly start thinking a lot during the game, and you won't have time to react.
Right.
And if you've practiced concentrating, then concentrating won't be hard in the game.
Right.
And that is, part of reinventing yourself.
Right.
Maybe you had a corporate culture that, allowed for certain things. And if you guys are going to change, you got to redefine what success means. It doesn't mean completely redefine, but you got to maybe slightly up what it means to have a good day at the office.
Right.
What things are getting measured, what things are getting evaluated that will really contribute to this new strategy.
Right.
So if you're going to push yourself to the next level, you got to accurately evaluate yourself. Then you've got to implement new prepreration and execute a new plan. And that's how you push yourself to the next level.
Yes. Even a runner, they will tell you about, this sort of, if you're trying to run your 100-yard dash and you're, trying to do that. The same thing was true in music. The same thing is true in my business right now. As I've been kind of regrouping, just seeing where the market is and what people's needs are, where they're really needed those gaps that I could really fill uniquely. I don't see other people doing this effectively. I see people talking about it, and people have all these different areas they're going, and they're still lost. They're coming to me. They're still lost.
Right.
So But evaluating, I think that evaluation, but also I want to focus just briefly here on that preparation, how important that is. Because in preparation, and especially in business, we need to be able to verbalize what we're doing. And our messaging needs to be so consistent and so clear. And this is where I'm an artist, and so I love to be clever. And so I just have to go back to this Donald Miller principle, be clear, not just clever. So that's very, very important for me to really focus and to be able to be on track for making sure that, and my preparation is very, very strong in that communication. So anyway, I think with the pushing myself in practice that I did with music, it was taking little parts of the music apart slowly and going over. So in performance, it was in my muscle memory, I was concentrating, but yet it was in my fingers, it was in my bones, it was in my body. And our business, we need to be able to understand our why so strongly that it is in our bones, in our minds, and in our bodies, that we can go out and we might need to make, little adjustments and changes, but yet the whole message of it is very, very consistent in the future of that. So anyway,
I think a lot of people don't understand how you prepare to play a piece. They think that you just look at it, play it, and it looks so easy when you do it.
Yeah.
But the way you evaluate a musical score is the same way people should evaluate their businesses.
Right.
Breaking it down into a couple of measures and understanding how those two measures fit with the next couple of measures and really committing to memory almost how this whole thing fits together, how it moves, how it starts and where it's going. That is a business strategy.
Totally.
And
yes.
in a time where competition is up because everybody's scrambling in a new economy, figuring out your business as if it's a musical score and you understand each measure and why it may have used to fit, but does it still belong in this orchestration that you're trying to now perform?
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, as a writer, you definitely have to evaluate that. And that is so second nature now because of years of that. And reinventing, years of that. And that's why I can really help people. I understand the big pictures of that. So we've got just a little more time left here, but I want to talk real quickly about the importance of a coach and an instructor. I know you've had some bad coaches as well, but we learn from coaches. I know I had a couple amazing instructors. And then, self-leadership is very important at this point. Although I take courses, I constantly read, and I'm consistently pursuing my professional education as well in my training in learning new things, especially technically or in business. But I've had some excellent instructors that really pushed me. They knew the level that I could be at when I wasn't even seeing it in myself. And do you have any illustrations of a coach like that?
Yeah, it's been fascinating to watch some of your clients come to you like over a year ago, and they knew what they needed to do, but over the course of the year, never starting.
Yes.
What became apparent is they didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And they needed a coach.
Yeah.
And a lot of really smart people can figure out what they need to do.
Right. Right.
But if you don't get it done,
right, it
doesn't do you any good.
Yeah.
The how to do it is where a coach comes in.
Right.
And as I think back on, my coaches, when you get to the major league level, what coaches do is they evaluate your skills, and you pick out areas that you need to fine-tune things. So they first develop your skills.
Right.
And then as you're competing, they're constantly evaluating your talents. And is there new areas we need to grow? Is there a new pitch we need to develop? Is there strength and conditioning that needs to be added? How about flexibility? Do you need bulk strength or do you need flexible strength? They're evaluating.
Right.
And then they help you formulate your game plan.
Right.
And, how are you going to attack certain hitters? And then in the middle of the game, what they do is to provide you feedback on how the game plan's going. Or, is your technique maintaining? Is the approach we decided to take, is it working or not working? If it's not working, why isn't it working? So in-game feedback is crucial. And I would think that'd be crucial for businesses too.
Right.
As you're trying to execute a strategic plan, having a small board of directors or a coach like yourself who can provide in-game feedback is invaluable. I don't know how you would ever get through sports without one, so I don't know how you do it with business. And then the last thing a coach does is assist you on staying on track in your development. So, it's just like some of the clients that have come to you. I may begin a season, and between me and my coach, we say, here's what I'm going to work on, and here's where I'm going. And, 6 weeks into the thing, I'm not developing, or, I've plateaued. What a coach does is help you figure out why you're plateaued. Are you not working hard? Is the technique wrong? But a coach is giving you feedback and is working with you, beside you. He or she is not your competition.
Right.
They're your second pair of eyes.
Right. I love some of those principles. Yes, and I've done this for so many years. And there's a difference a little bit in, some of these definitions, what people say a coach is, a mentor, a guide, a consultant. And I really call myself even more of a consultant and a guide at this point, working with groups and all of that. But one thing that I have done consistently through the years that has really helped all of my clients is create goals. And that's why I've started the Goals for Your Life. But, people talk about goals, but creating those for clients, it works. Because sometimes you can't see that for yourself. That's what competition did for me. It created a goal. I knew that I was going to have to play a certain piece at a certain time. And if I wasn't ready, it had to be memorized. It had to be, and these were not little pieces. These were major pieces, concertos. And they were memorized and all of that. If I was not ready, and there's been times that I have not been ready, you're so embarrassed. There's horrible because you knew it was nobody else's fault but your own. It was my fault. It was not, my instructor was giving me the steps. And I try to nurture people along, but if they don't want to work, then you need to work with somebody else because I'm sorry, I'm not after. I have told private students this for years. I said, do not pay me. Don't come to me. That's not what I'm about. And all of my students have excelled so well through the years. They want to learn because part of teaching and instructing to me is to developing a love for learning and a love for achieving those goals. And I think in business right now, if you love what you do, that is a definite advantage because you want to reach those goals and you're excited about them. And so I'm just going to leave with a couple. I loved what you said, this in-game feedback. This is why we love to watch sports, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That coach just he shouldn't have told that guy, do they? Doing all of that with the sports.
Yeah, poor Deb has to listen to my constant narrative trying to give the team feedback through the TV.
Yeah. So anyway, I just leave the room sometimes. Anyway, but I kind of want to leave us with those 3 points today of number one is when we are in that competition, the spirit of competition, because we can let the spirit of competition really drag us down as well if we focus on social media and what everyone else is doing. We need to watch our own game. Very important. Be in your own game. Once you start comparing yourselves, you're in an unfair competition sometimes. It's not really a competition. It's just stuff. So be in your own game, evaluate who you are and where you are. Number 2 is preparation. And the preparation you've done in the past may not be totally applicable. You can build on it, but you might need new preparation. You might need, if you're going to run faster, you got to find out new, you're going to have to train.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Train differently and maybe train harder.
Yes. And number 3, then come up with a new plan. And that plan can be tweaked, but always going back to what is your why? Like my why is to help others find joy again and meaning and significance and be filled with their life and their business. And that all applies to music, and it applies to the professional development courses, my new way of doing business. All of it applies together with that. And not be afraid to get a coach or a mentor, a guide. A coach really gives you instruction, and a mentor, they're experienced. They're more of an advisor. And a guide, they show the way, pretty much like a road sign. And a consultant, of course, gives expert professional advice that can build upon all that. So anyway, any last words for this?
No,
Greg?
I hope this helps people as they're evaluating where they're at and where they need to go.
Yeah.
And may their efforts be blessed. And just adopt the mindset that wherever you're at now, you can move to a bigger and better place.
Yes.
So I think with that, they'll be encouraged.
Yes. Just such a great principles. And next week, you will not want to miss, because I'm kind of building upon this with the subject, the importance of being proactive in life and business. And that word proactive instead of just reactive, we're going to really break that down next week, because it's a real mindset of being proactive. And it's the reason why I've started so many small groups through the years. I'm not asked usually to be in groups. I start them. I'm the one that starts businesses. I'm the one that starts courses. I'm the one that all of this. And I'm thinking, why isn't everybody else doing this right around me? But it's really that attitude of being proactive. And if we take that attitude right now, especially when we are regrouping, reinventing, and restarting, that's huge. So again, Deborah Johnson here with goalsforyourlife.com, womenathhalftime.com. It's such a pleasure to be here on this Women at Halftime podcast. And if you like this, please, I would love it if you left me a review or told your friends about it, and get them to listen and subscribe. And so until next week, signing off now, Deborah Johnson, and I'll see you then. Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson, signing off.